a co-founder and the president of the Milwaukee Theater Alliance, and I'm here with Jelana, who is the artistic director of Milwaukee Opera Theater, which is one of our companies. I'm also the artistic director of the Constructivists, which is another Theater Alliance company. And we were lamenting yesterday. I don't know, Jelana, if you want to tell the story there.
Oh, I think the story is real short. We were lamenting the collapse of some platforms that used to exist for learning about local theater in the Milwaukee area. And they've kind of disappeared or evaporated during the pandemic. And Jamie Lynn said, let's just make one. And so I've been wanting to be on this show for hours. And this is like a lifetime dream come true. So here we are.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah, and I've been dreaming of doing this for hours. So yeah. I do certainly intend to make this an ongoing thing, just because of what you stated about there really is. It's so screaming into the void. I mean, I just went through that experience with Women Laughing Alone with Salad, which we just completed a few weeks back at the Constructivists. And, you know, this pandemic has been hard on everybody. And it was like, you know, it took us a minute to sort of get back to, to switch over to a whole new game plan, which is this thing. And so once we did that, you know how media has like the attention span of, I don't know, what's a good metaphor, gnat, you know.
So turtleneck is fine. I don't think you need words. You just got it. It's fine. Yeah.
And you know, all things are quiet. So we're gonna do this thing, and we're starting with Milwaukee Opera Theater because you have a thing premiering tonight.
It does premiere tonight. Would you like me to tell the origin story while you
I would
crack the code that will let Danny into the meeting?
I sent him an invitation, so hopefully.
Great. So I'll say everything wrong, and then when Danny joins us, he'll fix it. Which is basically his job all the time. Cool. So moons ago, MOT had already revamped our season and planned a completely new pandemic season, like we all did. And it was full and approved and budgeted and everything. And then in July, we got an email from this really exciting coalition of independent opera companies that were working together on a Decameron project. And Danny and I exchanged emails and said, this sounds great, but we're not going to do it. It is a ridiculous timeline. We cannot pull it off. It's all stupid. And we just have to say no, because we already have a show in October. So it's not going to happen. And then we said, well, let's just collect a little bit more information. Let's attend one meeting with the woman who's organizing it, named Maria Sensi-Selner, and then we'll turn it down. And so we had that meeting, and like as soon as we got off the Zoom with Maria, who's based in Pittsburgh and is the artistic director of Resonance Works, we were like, holy crap, we have to find a way to do this.
Oh man.
This woman is amazing. There is so much potential, even though this is terrifying. There's so much potential in this project. We have to pursue it and see what happens. And so we were among the last of the 9 companies to join the coalition. So we had an even shorter timeline than the companies that embarked upon this in the first place. So that meant that we had to find a creative team like immediately to write a new opera inspired by Boccaccio's Decameron, because we had to turn it in like a month, you know. And so we reached out to Elizabeth Blood, who we worked with on Utterance last fall, so about 1 year ago. and knew that Elizabeth was such a strong performer with this beautiful voice that you could listen to all day. And I have, through the editing process, listened to it all day. And knew that she was a composer and just a really interesting artist with a vivid and unusual point of view. And we thought, okay, if we could find the kind of artist that can do this whole thing, you know, like, because we don't have time to put together a team of 5 or 6 people and get them all on the same page. But if we can find a team of 1, you know, like, maybe we can do this. And so Elizabeth took the dare, much to my delight, and said, I'll give this a shot. And Elizabeth wrote the music and performs all by herself. So she created an a cappella piece for herself to perform. Wow. So the score is her voice layered over itself. And then Danny Brylo, Elizabeth and I kind of ganged up on him to sucker him into doing the libretto. So he adapted the story 1 on the 4th day of the Decameron for Elizabeth, and also directed. So we had this like incredibly condensed team of Elizabeth as composer and performer, and Danny as librettist and director, and then Crystal Wagner as videographer. And that's it. That's our opera. It's like as tiny as you could go. And then I followed them through the woods, like swatting mosquitoes and keeping my distance because of COVID. And it was terrifying, but such a thrill to work on. And the coalition of these organizations, so the 9 companies each produce 1 new opera, which is like a story from the Decameron, or inspired by a story from the Decameron. The Decameron is a piece of literature from the 14th century about people in Florence sheltering from the bubonic plague. Yeah. And while they are sheltering in place, they tell each other stories. And so this is like a modern adaptation of the way that we are sheltering from our own plague by retreating in our cities or into our homes, by meeting on Zoom. And so it's been like wild and interesting to hear these contemporary adaptations of these ancient stories. And then a composer and librettist team, Matthew Boresi and Peter Hilliard, created a frame story. So this is where like one's brain starts to melt a little bit in the complexity of this project. But each participating company had to volunteer 1 artist from their mini opera to be cast in the frame story. Oh, wow. Which would be 10 individuals, because we have 1 guest host. So 1 person from each of the 9 companies, and it had to be Elizabeth because she's the only cast member of our show. and then our guest host, who is Luca Pizzaroni, a completely delightful and totally amazing opera singer. And they play friends who had a wild night in Florence years ago, who are meeting on Zoom for a reunion of their night in Florence pre-pandemic. And so they are like the 10 people in the Decameron who are sheltering. And then each one of those individuals at that reunion tells a story for the others. And that story is the opera that their company commissioned. So all total, there are kind of 10 original operas. So it's insane.
It's amazing to me that all happened within such a short period of time. I mean, I did watch
6 months total.
Like, yeah.
6 months is the longest timeline that anyone had.
That's insane.
They built a consortium of 9 companies in a matter of weeks. And this is the part that as an administrator, I'm like, I still can't believe it happened. But like a national coalition of 9 independent companies, like managed to all get on the same page and create an agreement and issue 9 commissions for new pieces, shepherd all of those commissions, get them done and turned in and the files submitted, like get them to the videographer who's pulling them all into the final product, and get it all distributed on time for a premiere of the first piece, which was 2 weeks ago. So that cooperation, I feel like there's something just deeply inspiring about that level of cooperation and collegiality, like in this super divisive time.
That's awesome. I mean, I went and looked at the YouTube video about, because it's called the Decameron Opera Coalition.
Yeah.
Right. And the actual title, I guess, for this project is Tales from a Safe Distance.
Yes.
That's what they're calling it? Okay. And that it's 10 fringe opera companies, in, like you said, in total. But I thought what was interesting about it was that they specifically used the word fringe.
Yeah.
And in that, one of the things that they commented on was how fast.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you're sort of like not dealing with, I mean, like you can't imagine like the Metropolitan Opera or something like that, like getting an email and going, hey, we're going to do a thing. So build a thing and make it happen 6 months from now. And they would have been like, but we have 200 people to, You are just going, it's like you and Danny and one other artist are like, heck yeah, we're going to do the thing.
Well, I think that you've just described one of the other really exhilarating aspects of the project. So yeah, they articulated that they specifically sought out, like it started with Resonance Works in Philadelphia and Lyric Opera of the North in Duluth and Urban Arias in Washington, D.C. And they all already kind of had a relationship with each other. And then, so they connected and started this ball rolling. And then through conversation about other companies producing along the same lines or in the same vein, started to invite others to be part of this, and it's through those conversations that MOT received an invitation to join them, of just being, oh, here's another organization that might understand this, might embrace it, might be able to pivot quick enough to join us. And they do accurately articulate the sort of flexibility of the small company. And I think also sort of the open-mindedness of many, what we would say are fringe companies or small companies that just tend to be a little more experimental and open-minded about what our genres can be and do. And so I think typically, this is probably true for the constructivists, also very much for Milwaukee Opera Theater, but like when you're a small organization in a small city, it can be very isolating. And we're so busy every day doing the administrative workload for our little companies because we're all understaffed and all of that stuff. So we're just busy all the time. And there's not a lot of time and attention that we can find to connect with others, certainly on the national landscape. It's just very hard to do. And so one thing that's been truly extraordinary about this project is having weekly meetings with these 9 artistic directors and general managers from 9 other organizations of our approximate scale throughout the country in different cities, from Duluth to Fargo, North Dakota, to Houston, to New York City, to Washington, D.C., Chicago, Minneapolis. It's like been in this time of extreme isolation, it's been really incredible to meet and learn and really get to know and kind of like develop these brand new friendships with other people who are kind of doing similar work in far-flung places. And then to all work together on the same thing, to be able to carve out some kind of shared space where all of us are participating in the same story, like during this pandemic, has been just a real treat. Terrifying though it is, and difficult to explain though it is. It's been it's been a blessing.
That's awesome. Dan asked, was the group origin story presented first, or is it yet to come? He said he's a little behind. So we should just repeat here that it's based on a 14th century, the
Penguin edition.
The Penguin
of Boccaccio's Decameron.
Giovanni Boccaccio, which just a little bit of research that I had to do. So because first of all, opera is not my wheelhouse. Second of all, I did not come across this collection the story when I was in high school or college or anything like that. So this is totally new to me. But I just love that the way that whoever it was at the Cameron project, that they're like, hey, everybody's reading this thing. Hey, we can make a thing just like this thing, but we're going to do it with opera.
I love also that it is this, we do this a lot, I think, at Milwaukee Opera Theater, in just the way that we sort through history and look for bits that resonate, and maybe turn them a little sideways, shake them up, knock on it and see if anything is still there, you know, and kind of bring them forward. And I love that it's taking this this piece of medieval literature about the bubonic plague and people sheltering in place outside of Florence and entertaining each other with stories, and moving it 700 years, you know, where humans are kind of doing the same thing. And there are so many, if you do know the Decameron, and I'm not even done reading it myself all the way through, I will admit, I'm chugging through it and I love it.
It's like you have to take another
like
thing.
One of the librettists from a piece last week talked about like how many lovers are hid in closets in the stories in the Decameron, because there are all these like sexy stories about people cheating on each other, and they're always shoving people into closets. And so they're like little updated opera, like totally featured a person hiding in a closet in someone's bedroom. You know, it's really fun. It's really fun. Do you want to hear a tiny passage from the introduction of the Decameron that kind of floored me?
Yes.
So this is Boccaccio's, I know people, when we're doing theater, we always say like, oh, this play is so timely. It's so timely, you know, and it can be kind of like something that we say so often, like, well, every play is timely. But seriously, listen to this portion of the introduction from Boccaccio's Decameron from the middle of the 14th century about the plague. Some people were of the opinion that a sober and abstemious mode of living considerably reduced the risk of infection. They therefore formed themselves into groups and lived in isolation from everyone else. Others took the opposite view and maintained that an infallible way of warding off this appalling evil was to drink heavily, enjoy life to the full, go round singing and merrymaking, gratify all of one's cravings whenever the opportunity offered, and shrug the whole thing off as one enormous joke.
So interesting, the things
we've come so far, humans.
Oh my gosh, we're so evolved. We are so just, oh man. That is, it's fantastic and awful.
Right.
It's awfully fantastic.
It's awfully fantastic.
Danny's just having a whole bunch of problems here.
So maybe Danny can have his own. We'll do a Danny show.
We'll do a Danny show. Maybe we'll do a follow-up at 3 p.m. It says that it's not giving
the option. Call it Set the Record Straight.
So, yeah. You've got a thing, set it straight.
Does that answer the question about the origin?
Yeah, Dan says, should we watch it in the order presented or pick and choose on a whim?
Both are very possible, especially if you're picking and choosing. Each of the individual operas absolutely stand on their own, but there is something really cool about seeing the framing device in order. So I do wonder, for some people, the pieces are premiering every Friday in October, but it would be nice to sit down and watch the whole thing in an arc, because even from start to finish, it's only about 2 hours of content. These Friday premieres are just about 30 minutes long, which is wild in and of itself.
So there's 4 of them.
There are 4.
And there's 10 companies. So there's 2 per, 3 per.
Yes, we're a 3 per tonight. We are the 3. We are the Friday of 3. So we are premiering with Opera in the Heights in Houston and an opera theater in Minneapolis, and then Milwaukee. So those are the 3 cities that have premieres in tonight's Decameron episode.
So this is the third week?
This is the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it'll all be zipped up next weekend.
Yep, with Resonance Works, which is their opera is about making sourdough bread. It's called Sourdough Rise Up. And Chicago Fringe Opera commissioned this really exciting piece called Corsair.
Okay. But as far as Milwaukee Opera's piece, it's a pretty good standalone, right? So like if people in Milwaukee wanted to support you, which we should, we should go to the Decameron Opera Coalition. The link was just posted on Facebook.
Yep.
Tickets are just 15, yeah?
They're $15 for all access to all of this stuff. So
the whole thing. I mean, that price just
$1.60 opera or something. It's like,
it just blows my mind. It just blows my mind. But then you can also donate to companies and things like that through that website. Yeah.
Yes, you can. Yep, you can select a donation.
Okay. Yay!
Yay! Thanks, Jamie Lynn.
Yeah. It's just important. We need to get things rolling again. I mean, this has just been a rough go for so many reasons. That is a whole other show in and of itself.
Yep.
But the purpose of art is to help people mentally get through things in so many ways. The cathartic process of watching a Milwaukee Opera Theater piece from your home is so good in so many ways. To distract, to bring joy, to process sadness in a good way, process all the dark things in a good way, and the light things. That's what art does. Yeah,
I hope so. I think it's like breathing. It's like just necessary.
So yeah, well, I guess Dan also says, please share that passage on your page.
Would be
I think you should. That's pretty epic. Hey, this is from 1350.
I know. Well,
Way to go, America.
I think I read it 2 or 3 times when I first read the intro. It's in the introduction to the Decameron.
Bravo, America. Huh. Bravo.
Okay.
So yes, get your tickets. Also, I just wanted to quick mention, speaking of like all the other things, Imagine MKE has a broadcast on their Facebook page at noon that's sort of covering all the other things. Every Friday they've been having a live broadcast at noon geared towards social justice and art and how we can all become more involved civically. I was able to catch the one last week. I'm going to hop on there at noon myself. And so you're all welcome to hop over to the Imagine MKE Facebook page with me and watch the other half. This is the art side. Now you can watch the civic action side if you're able to do that. So thank you so much, Jillian.
Thank you.
Sorry, Danny. I'm so sorry.
We're gonna make it up to Danny.
We'll totally make it up to Danny. He says it's cool. I look forward to this. I'm going to try and do this again next week with a new group. And so you can go to MilwaukeeTheaterAlliance.org. You can connect with us there if you have a thing that you would like to talk about. Because again, this is You've Got a Thing, an interview thing about Milwaukee theater things. So we want to talk about your thing. Join us next week.
I'll be there.
Joanna will be there. Hopefully more of you will join us. And so, but thank you all for letting us guinea pig this past you and through all of our technical difficulties. See ya.
Yep,
See ya.
We'll work on the tagline. We'll work on the outro for next week.
Watch the next thing.
Bye, Jamie.
Bye.